Hi, today I'm going to be showing you how to make this charm right here. This is my own original design, and it's a charm, obviously. And this is called the flower chain charm because I have a bracelet which is basically this charm, only in bracelet form. As you can see, you can make this bracelet going all the way around your wrist, but that is not what this tutorial is about. It is about this charm here, and I will be showing you how to make it. And I have another example right here, which is more of the final, how I want it to look type thing. This is just the prototype, so here's what you're going to actually be making. As you can see, there's a smaller little cap band at the bottom. This one's a little bit bigger, but this is what you're going to be making if you are wondering what you're going to be making. And now I'm going to show you what you need to make it. So to make this charm, you're going to need your loom. Any loom will work. I'm going to be using my royal loom, which is very similar to a rainbow loom. You will need a hook, and depending on how many petals you're going to be using for your charm, and by petals I mean these outer rubber bands that make this look like a flower. You can use either single rubber bands or double rubber bands. And as you can see, I use double rubber bands, which means I use 2 rubber bands for each of these petals here. For this tutorial, I will be doing double rubber bands for the petals. And if you're going to be doing that, I would recommend using a metal hook. So I will be using my Rainbow Loom metal tip hook. But if you do single rubber bands for the petals, then you can use any hook for that. Also, if you're going to do double rubber bands, lots of rubber bands can break while making this bracelet, especially the single chain that goes through the middle. So not only will you need your loom and your hook, but you will also need rubber bands. I would recommend using at least 3 colors. One for these outer rubber bands, which are the petals, so pink on this example here. Then another color for this inner circle of rubber bands, which are the inner petals, I call them. And the single chain going through the middle of the whole thing is another color. And here's another example of using 3 colors. One for this, and you can use more than 3 colors, like I did for my bracelet tutorial for this charm, the flower chain bracelet. I used 4 colors instead of 3. I used 2 colors for the outer petals, 1 color for the inner petals, and 1 color for the stem, or a single chain that goes through the middle. And for this tutorial, I will be making the charm that I'm making more like this bracelet, with 2 different colors for the outer petals, and 1 for the inner petals, and 1 for this single chain. And the colors I will be using are gold, so these gold rubber bands, and they will be the inner petals. My outer petals will be 2 different colors. They are going to be jelly turquoise, so turquoise jelly, and these are from the Rainbow Loom web store. And I'm also going to be making my petals blue. And then the single chain that goes through the middle of the bracelet, or not the bracelet, but the charm, I'm going to be using this pastel green. And the only thing from the Rainbow Loom web store is this hook and these turquoise rubber bands. So I will be having a link to the website in the description below. So anyway, now that you know what you will need, now we can begin to actually make the charm. To make this charm, you're going to need the arrows on your loom to be pointing away from you. This arrow up here in the top right corner of the screen will be pointing the same direction as the arrows on my loom. So use this arrow up here for reference during the video. Now let's start placing rubber bands. The first rubber bands we're going to be placing are these rubber bands that are going through the middle of the bracelet, which are the single chain going through the middle. That is what we're going to be placing first. So what you're going to do to place this single chain is very easy. You're going to start on the first middle peg and stretch a rubber band that you wish to use for the single chain and place it going from this first middle peg to the second middle peg. Then you will get another rubber band that you wish to use for the single chain and stretch it going from the second middle peg to this third middle peg. And then you're going to take another rubber band for the single chain and stretch it going from this third middle peg to this fourth middle peg. And then you will place one more single chain rubber band and it will go from this fourth middle peg to this fifth middle peg. Now, if you got extra single chain rubber bands, you can put those away, but keep one because you will need it for a capping band later. So I'll put this over to the side. And now that you've placed this single chain, you will now place these rubber bands here, which are the inner rubber band, or the inner petals, as I call them. And for this tutorial, I'm using gold rubber bands. Okay, let me push these down a little bit. So, to place the inner petal rubber bands, you're going to make a hexagon shape on the pegs on your loom. So to do this, you're going to skip this first middle peg and you're going to start on the second middle peg, and you're going to get an inner petal rubber band and stretch it from the second middle peg to the second left peg. There you go. Then we're going to get another inner petal rubber band, and we're going to stretch it from this second left peg to this third left peg. So like that, if you cannot see. Then you will get another inner petal rubber band, and from this third left peg, you're going to stretch it going inwards from this third left peg to this fourth middle peg, and you will get a half of a hexagon shape. So here's what that looks like. Now we will place the same little pattern here, only on the right side. So we will get another inner petal rubber band, and from this same second middle peg, we're going to stretch the rubber band going outwards to this second right peg. Push this down a little bit. There we go. Then we're going to get another inner petal rubber band, and from this second right peg, we're going to stretch this rubber band going forwards to this third right peg. And then with another inner petal rubber band, you're going to stretch it going from this third right peg to this fourth middle peg. And once you've placed that rubber band, you can see that there's now a hexagon shape on your loom. And now, if you have extra inner petal rubber bands left over, you can go ahead and put those to the side. So that's what I'm going to do. Just put them away. But if you do keep extras out, that is kind of recommended, because if one of these break, you're going to want to have a second one to use to replace, or just start completely over. So now that you've placed your inner petal rubber bands, we're now going to place the outer petal rubber bands, which are this pink, on these example. And for this tutorial, I will be using blue rubber bands and this jelly turquoise rubber bands. Now, depending on how many rubber bands you're using for the petals, either 1 or 2, single or double, will depend on how many rubber bands you place stretching across the pegs this step. I'm going to be doing double rubber bands for the petals, so I will be placing 2 more rubber bands going on the pegs. And if you're going to be doing single petals with just 1 rubber band, you would just do 1 rubber band for these petals. So for the outer petals, we're going to place these rubber bands in the same pattern we did the inner petals. So this hexagon shape, so we're basically just going to be placing these rubber bands on top of this hexagon here. So to do this, you're going to take either 1 or 2 rubber bands, depending on how many petals you're going to have or how many rubber bands you're going to have for your petals. And you're going to start on this second middle peg. You're going to stretch the rubber band or rubber bands from the second middle peg to the second right peg, or left peg, sorry. Then you're going to get 2 more or 1 more rubber band, and you're going to stretch them, or it, across this second left peg to this third left peg, and you'll get 2 or 1 more rubber band, and you will place them, or it, going across from this third left peg to this fourth middle peg. And now you should have this half of a hexagon shape. And it looks like this. And now we're going to place the same pattern only on the right side. So we're going to take either 1 or 2 rubber bands, depending on how many you're using for your petals. And you're going to stretch it from this second middle peg that we've always started this hexagon on, and stretch it, or them, going outwards to this second right peg. Then from the second right peg, we're going to get 1 or 2 more rubber bands for our outer petals, and we're going to stretch them going across from the second right peg to this third right peg. Then you're going to get 1 or 2 more rubber bands, depending on how many you're using for your outer petals, and you're going to stretch them from this third right peg to this fourth middle peg. And once you've placed those, or it, now you are done placing rubber bands on your loom, except for your final rubber band, which will be a cap band. And you can put these petals, or these extra rubber bands, away, because none of these should break, but if they do, well. But now that you've finished placing rubber bands, you can now get ready to start the looming process. So to loom this charm, we're going to need the arrow on our loom to be pointing towards us. And now your charm should be all the way up here. And the arrows on your loom should be pointing towards you. So here's the arrow pointing towards me to show you. And I'm going to go ahead and adjust the camera so you can see. And I have my camera here at an angle because my loom is very long and I don't have a camera stand that I could have my camera sitting on. But it is at an angle, but you will still be able to see everything that I'm doing, and it might actually be easier to see what I am doing. So anyway, now we can begin looming. But before we do, we're going to place our capping band for our charm. And as you can see, here is a really small capping band, and I'm going to show you how to make this. But this capping band is optional, or no it's not, but depending on how many times you twist it around this peg or cap it, you can choose whatever. As you can see, this is just a normal capping band, and here it is for if you twist this capping band 3 times, and I will show you what I mean by 3 times. So you're going to place your capping band on this first middle peg with rubber bands on it. And what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and make your capping band normally. You're going to twist this rubber band into an 8 or an infinity sign, then fold it like a book back on top of itself. Now it looks like there are 2 rubber bands instead of 1. And then you will place it on this peg here. This is if you want just the normal capping band, which looks like this. I do not like this very much, and I prefer this. So if you want this, you're going to twist this rubber band a 3rd time, and to do this, you're going to take one part of the capping band. Ooh, a bug. Sorry, there's a bug on my camera. Don't know how I got there. Anyway, you're going to take one part of the capping band, so there's 2, looks like there are 2 rubber bands for the capping band, there's this and this. What you're going to do is you're going to take one part of that, twist it like an 8 or an infinity sign, and put, it's very difficult to do. You're going to twist this like an 8 or an infinity sign, and you're going to put the other end of the 8 or infinity sign, the capping band, or not the capping band, but the peg, like so. And this is the most I would recommend twisting it, because when I twisted it 4 times, which was pretty difficult, it actually broke. And there's that stupid bug again. So I would only recommend doing it 3 times, because as you can see, it looks pretty nice when it's twisted 3 times. But if you cannot do this here, you can just go ahead and do this normal capping band. But I'm just doing 3 because that's how I prefer it. So anyway, now we can actually get our hooks and start looming. So to loom this, to start looming, you're going to loom this first rubber band here. What you're going to do is you're going to pull back, you're going to come to this first middle peg with rubber bands on it, or the one with your capping band, and you're going to pull back the capping band and grab the bottom rubber band, which is this rubber band that goes forwards, and that is also where you will loom it. So you will loom this rubber band here forwards, like so. Then you come to the most complex part of the looming and everything, and you're going to be looming only specific rubber bands, and other rubber bands will not even be moved. So these top rubber bands here, or this top rubber band, depending on how many rubber bands you're using for your outer petals, will not be loomed and will just stay like this the whole time. The only rubber bands that are going to be loomed are the very bottom rubber bands, which are your inner petals. So to loom this flower here, you're going to pull back either the top 4 rubber bands or top 2 rubber bands. It depends on how many rubber bands you are using for your petals, if you're only using one rubber band for your pedals, then you'll pull back the top 2. If you're using double rubber bands for your pedals, then you would pull back the top 4 rubber bands. So basically, you'll just pull back the outer pedal rubber bands. And since I've done double rubber bands for my pedals, I'm going to pull back the top 4 rubber bands, and I'm going to grab the top rubber bands underneath of them. So you should grab an inner pedal rubber band. Then what you're going to do is you're going to, once it's on your hook and you've pulled it up through, you're going to loom it outwards to the left. So here's how that looks. Once you've done that, you are now on the left side. You will come into this left peg here. This pretty much third left peg is 1, 2, 3. This first left peg with rubber bands on it. You're just going to pull back these top rubber bands or top rubber band and grab the very bottom rubber band and loom it forwards. And be very patient with these rubber bands, especially if you're doing double rubber bands for your pedals, because pretty much any rubber band can break, except for maybe this one right here. But almost any rubber band can break that you're looming. So if you do single rubber bands for your outer pedals, then you should be fine. But if you're doing double, it's really risky. Anyway, now you're on this top left peg, and you're going to do the same thing you did for this peg here. You're just going to pull back the top rubber bands, grab the bottom rubber band, and loom it inwards to this middle peg here. And now you should have loomed half of your hexagon. So here's how that looks. And once you've loomed that, the left side of your hexagon, you can go ahead and do the same exact thing for the right side. I'm gonna try to move this camera closer. Well, I tried, but so you're going to just do the same thing you did on the left side, only now on the right side. So you're gonna come back to this first middle peg, or the first middle peg of your flower, and you're going to pull back either the top 4 or top 2 rubber bands, so your outer pedal rubber bands, in other words. You're going to grab the top rubber band underneath the ones that you pulled back, and you're going to loom that rubber band outwards to the right. Once you've done that, here's how it looks. Now, once you've done that, you're going to loom this rubber band that's going forwards from this right peg to this next right peg. You're going to pull back all the top rubber bands and grab the very bottom rubber band, and you're going to loom it forwards. Let's see, it's taking a little while. Got it. There we go. And here's how that looks. And once you've loomed that rubber band there, you can loom this rubber band that goes inwards from this right peg to this middle peg. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to pull back the top rubber bands, grab the very bottom rubber band with your hook, and you're going to loom it inwards. And just be very, very patient with these rubber bands, especially when you're looming this. Of course, I probably should have said that before. But just be very patient when you're looming these. If it's not stretching instantly to go across, just slowly, really slowly, at times, pull the rubber band going to where it needs to go. I'll probably already have had a caption say that before, but now I'm just telling you. So anyway, now you have completely loomed your hexagon in the middle here. Now we're going to loom this single chain that goes through the middle. So now you're going to come back again to this second middle peg, or this first middle peg for your flower. And you're going to pull back all these top rubber bands, which should be either 4 or 2. You're going to grab this very bottom rubber band, and this rubber band is very easy to loom, because apparently nothing really wants to hold it back for some reason, I don't know why. But you're just going to loom this rubber band that you picked up with your hook here, and loom it forwards, and here's how that looks. This rubber band here is also very easy to loom. There's nothing really to hold it, keep you from looming it. So you're just going to come into this very middle peg, in the middle of your hexagon here, and you're just going to loom it forwards. And here's how that looks. Then, once you've loomed those there, you're going to now loom this final rubber band, and this rubber band is the most difficult to loom, but if it does break, there is a way to replace it without having to take off anything on your loom. But I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to loom this. All you're going to do is pull back all these top rubber bands, and there are a ton. You're going to grab the very bottom rubber band with your hook, and you're going to very, very slowly loom it forwards, unless you have like absolutely no problems with this. And awesome, cool. This rubber band is the most likely to break because it just has so many rubber bands to go through. But if you're able to successfully loom this, then awesome. I will show you how to make your slip knot. And to do this, it's very easy. You don't even have to take this off of your loom to make this slip knot. All you're going to basically do, you're going to take your hook, or your fingers, and grab this bottom layer of the rubber band, and pull it off of the hook, the peg, and just release it right there. Just release it on top of this here. And then you can take your hook and take this whole thing off of your loom, but be careful with this part here because it'll break. But let's say this rubber band broke. You would basically do what you do, or you would usually do for the end of a bracelet. You would put your hook going into this peg here, have it coming out to the side at the bottom. And then you would get a rubber band, put it on your hook, once it's on your hook, you would hold one side of the rubber band while you pulled your hook through this peg, and you could go ahead and make a slip knot on this. All you would have to do is you would put the other end of this rubber band on your hook, and then the end that is furthest inwards on your hook, you would pull it over, or pull it off of your hook, and it would become a slip knot here. Let me take this off, because I do not need it. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and create my slip knot here. And anyway, once you either take that off your loom and everything's a slip knot or whatever, however the end of your bracelet is, not bracelet, charm, your charm should end up looking something like this. You probably like move the petals around a little bit. And this is how it should look. So I hope you were able to make this charm. If you weren't able to because of rubber bands just constantly breaking, just always breaking, then I have no idea what to tell you other than maybe get different rubber bands? I don't know. But I hope you were able to make this charm successfully, and I hope you're able to enjoy your charm. If you're not enjoying your charm, just make something else. But thanks for watching, and bye.